Hello, I'm Dr. Wendy Rowley of the Wonder of Human Design YouTube channel. This is the playlist series called Are You Ready for Your Next Growth Period? This is the final episode, number 10. Always a good idea to listen to my series on my channels as playlists because they build, they tell stories, they evolve, and there's energy work that goes in sequences, and it's like reading a book. And that's the way it is for me and my channel. So, but we try to make them make some sense. And I'm personally trying to get out of describing all the far out energy anatomy because it's like a language people can't understand. And I'm going to try to show that in pictures instead with these new video capabilities that are there to make videos that are so cool that you see on the web and on one of my favorites is a girl on Instagram named AI Creator, and she'll do some juicy ones with meditators or energies around their field, and it's just amazing. I hope the ones that I eventually try to learn to create, because I make the YouTube playlist covers, and I taught myself Photoshop, Zoom, and Squarespace, and put all this up in 2020 during COVID to bring this forward because Aliania came back, said it's time. And here we are. So here I am. And I'm hoping I could learn to do the videos because I really do enjoy the art part and creating it. And I'm hoping that my videos can get as good as AI creators. And I give a shout out and a kudos to her. Check out her stuff. It's really charming. It's really amazing. And she's really great at it. I've actually asked her to help me, but I didn't get a response back. So we'll see. If I need to get her to get that going for me, I will. Maybe I can get her to help me. But I think she works more at a larger level. I don't know. But anyway, I'm just putting a shout out there. If you ever hear this AI creator, I'd really like to work with you and get some help for you on this work because it's brand new. And I think we could help a lot of people by, and of course it's a paid thing, but I think I could help a lot of people if I were able to show them the magnificence that they are in these videos. I actually found out in the old Akash that in the time of Solomon, they used transparent, maybe silks, transparent fabrics of different colors, and they used candles, and they were able to set up these kinds of ideas of whether you want to call them spirit boxes or however you want to describe them, but are spiritual. But they used to do this thing where they would try to demonstrate parts of the spirit of that we have through these candles and these fabrics and shadows and people, and it must have been fascinating. And I found that in the Akash at one point when I was looking at some information. Anyway, just sharing some stuff, and I don't know if that's true, but maybe Allie will validate that for us. But anyway, I'm going to get out of the way. So my instructions for this last video were to get completely out of the way and surrender. And we do know we're going to have some sort of energy work, but apparently this is going to be different. So I'm going to do the best I can here, and I will see you on the other side of whatever this is. But here we go. All right, dearest beings of light. This is Aliania of Cosmic Service, a Palladian Mother of Sound. Peace be with you, peace be with you, and peace be with you. We're going to share with you what she saw. She saw us come over to go to the channel for channeling down to her throat, but then she saw us go whoop, 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 whoop. What was that? We connected into the three golden akashas of the three consciousnesses at the periphery of the planet just now. Okay, so first what we would like to do is the activation of the final part of the series, which this activation brings the intuitive connections all the way up to the noosphere, to your soul in the greater field with the soul groups. Wow, that's pretty far out. Okay, well, is that a good thing to do? I mean, I don't know. What is that? Well, that just means that those golden akashas out in the greater field with divine intelligence can now be stimulated by divine intelligence through your soul in your growth period. That's all that is. It means divine intelligence out in the greater field can stimulate you or soul group doing healing and evolutionary work in the future and far future and far, far future and farther, farther future. And everyone can have an experience of that event through some way that the Creator chooses to have that expressed through the golden Akashas. And that's all that is. It's just a connection for divine intelligence in the new Akashas for you going forward. Now, we have nothing to do with it. It's between you and your connections. So it's not anything that we are involved in. We are simply the conduits of the work. That's all. Okay. Because we know there's some people who go, she's possessed. She's let a being in, and that being is taking over. Past lives, fears. Okay. Coming also from the Galactic Akash. Okay. That's all we're going to say about that. Okay, so she's out of the way very well. We're going to do this healing. Then we're going to come back and we're going to explain something, and then we're going to go do that. And that, dearest being of light, concludes the connection at the noosphere level. Okay, we had said in one of the other videos in this series that when you hear, it's an upgrade and a filter. And we said that people are well aware of these filters in the central column. They like to count layers of dimensions that way. We don't quite see it that way, but they call them the 8th, the 11th, and the 17th filter. And because of work she did with another juicy activator in a series of choirs since 2012, she was able to work and do that, what she did just now. That came through that work. And there's a large pay-it-forward system going on of people in their groups. Okay, so that's all we have to say about that. Okay, so that connection is done at the soul level for your individual interface between your individual and group higher self. So in other words, this isn't at your individual level. This is at your group level. So this is not actually any kind of a corruption at your individual level, if anyone's afraid of that. And we thought we would validate that for some people who are concerned about that. They're sort of sitting on the fence. They've started to go into this work, and they are starting to see the effect of it, but they still have some human doubts. And there's more healing to come, and you will get over that. That's all we can say about that. Okay, so those wind sounds are the filters. And we had said that these filters are not just places where things need to be healed that are stuck, because that's the image that healers were given about filters. Stuck pictures in a filter of your chakras that you clear out. Those are usually repetitive patterns of doing the same behavior over and over again. They're usually in the filters of the chakras in the front or the back. And so you can clear those out with color, light, and sound. But we're talking about a different level of this information. We're talking about filters that are between the dimensional layers of the white, gold, blue, green, and noosphere level. which we have to talk about in this way because it's the only way to explain the energy. We don't have another metaphor that we can think of to use other than these pictures and images at this time. In the future, we would, but right now we don't, because you don't have the expanded 12-based math paradigm yet for understanding them in. And that's what we're going to say about that. You're moving over to a 12-based math paradigm. You're moving off the decimal system to the 12-base system in this one's lifetime, believe it or not, because it's going to go forward now. And that's what we have to say about that. Okay, so that means that the divine intelligence of the Creator out in the greater field in group events can percolate down to the group or in evolution over time into your individual higher self, the feelings that it thinks you should have in your growth periods, which this seminar series playlist is about. Okay, so we have this understanding. We've painted these pictures. They're kind of complex. Sometimes you feel like you get it. Sometimes you feel like it's too far out and I can't keep the concepts together. And sometimes you feel like you get it. And that's the dance of new information, especially when it's your spiritual nature. So here's what we're going to do now. And this one had no idea this was going to happen. And part of what this is we're showing you all what's possible now in the new Akashas. One of the things that this one has been wired to do is to be a time capsule channeler. And that's something that can be done. And she can actually hold a seminar to help other people become them. And that's in the future, in 2027, if anyone's interested in that. But she's been wired. So how does that work? That's our information. That's our Akash. The only way that time capsule golden Akash of information gets turned on is divine intelligence tells us to do it. Then all of us in our group consciousness have to go into the interim Christ grid, into our golden Akash, and we have to work as a group to bring that down to her soul, and she, in herself, channels it forward. We do not channel it for her. The human channels it up from the time capsule down, and the Pleiadian mothers release the information at the soul level. So we're going to do this now for her. Now, there's a reason through divine intelligence why this is happening. Because this only happens, as we said, with divine intelligence. So how can that be? That we're going to do this on YouTube in a public forum in a way that we don't know who the heck might find this video. Well, we do. This is quantum entanglement. When we entangle with a human at our level, we said at one time we can see about 300 years into your future, which is why people channel with a higher creational being to bring in succor and upliftment for the future and heads up about something that might be coming, and don't worry about it, it's going to be okay. That happens at every great renaissance because there's a lot of change, and so the Creator brings in information and upliftment through various people, and there's usually a lot of them on purpose. So it's not that the veil is thinner and that's why everyone's suddenly channeling. It's that the soul groups out in the greater field are being stimulated by the divine intelligence of the creative force to bring in more soul and spiritual information through people of various types of work and various types of fields of industry, because some people channel and they don't even know it. And that happens a lot in business, believe it or not. Suddenly they get this idea and they're saying all this stuff. Well, that's soul channeling. And your soul does that all the time. Even for the very first newbie that shows up on the earth, because he has a Christ healing spirit body, or he or she. Because that's the system. It's designed. We said that before. So they have the ability to get information. Okay, so we're sorting to lapsing because she's thinking. Let's give her a moment because we really want her clear. Okay, so so like we said, we know about 300 years in the future, and we also pretty much, and we've proven this to her so she would know it, how many people so many days after her video would have watched it on the Great Global Healing Party. And we've started to do that with her so she would develop the confidence of our information. And so there are approximately about 15 scientists who are going to find their way to this channel over the next year because they do check out this information. And she was surprised at that when she talked to one of them. She was really surprised at that in the Great Global Healing Party because she got to talk to a scientist. And before her interview with him, she and this fellow talked for 40 minutes, and she was thrilled. She had no idea that some science people were into these far out ideas of the spiritual level. And they are. And so this information has got little percolations in it for about 15 scientists working on various different things. And so it might not make sense to some of you listening to this, but it's going to make sense to them. So that's the way this works. This time capsule channeling is often done in front of groups of inventors, scientists, spiritual groups, or on occasion like this. And so here we go. We're going to ask her to get out of the way. And she wants a drink of water first. She said, "Give me some water." Okay. And we want you to know this is her second time doing it. So this is a new thing for her too. So just be patient with her. And I think she's going to do a great job. All right, I am ready to begin. The first thing I would like to talk about is in the understanding of quantum mechanics and working with magnets in an elegant way, there is a particular energy field that is created. And that energy field, when it's multiple magnets, sets up a vortex. And that vortex opens up another dimension. And that dimension brings things into it, into this vortex, into this magnetic field. You know this. What you haven't figured out to get this to happen again, like it happened one time, is that you haven't figured out to put magnets above and below. And this is not an old message. This message did come through another channeler once, and this one heard it. But we're repeating it because they didn't get it. And they're going to get it this time. And that's what we have to say about that. Okay. In the understanding of body biology, there is now beginning to be an understanding that frequency can affect chemistry, and there's now beginning to be an understanding that frequency can actually open gated channels in cell membranes, as well as frequency can also bring in an ability to change how the membrane opens up. And that is the key. The idea that the membrane can open up in different ways has not been explored. It's only been explored through chemistry and channel-gated ion kinds of openings. But no one has started to think about looking at the fact that the membrane is a quantum entanglement, magnetic, nuclear, creational energy system related to the interdimensional DNA in the central column, which is frequency, and that it has an ability to work with the frequency of the interdimensional DNA in a quantum entangled state where you can affect things at the membrane without affecting chemistry. Because one of the problems in healing with chemicals is you can't control what goes in and out of the membrane. But with frequency, you can. And that's all we have to say about that. Another thing that is very interesting that science is starting to discover is that in the potentials of electromagnetic spectrums that we thought we could see within, there is a way to see beyond our physical visual spectrum. And they already know this. And they have it figured out. And they have the new lens in place. And they're starting to see it. What we're going to say is, the way you're thinking about it needs to expand. Maybe what you're seeing is not time, space, and dimension. Maybe it's simply quantum entanglement, and you have had those thoughts. Maybe what you're seeing is pre-creational, and you've had those thoughts. Maybe what you're seeing is not the same level of time there as here, and you've had those thoughts. Maybe quantum entanglement, dimension, and time have a formula that has not been figured out yet. And that this work that you're bringing forward is going to be able to produce that formula in about another 2 months with some of the work you're bringing forward. That formula is going to be able to be applied to chemistry. And that's all we have to say about that. There is some engines that people are trying to develop to not use fossil fuel, and this has also been brought forward by some channelers. Someone's working on an engine with the idea of going beyond the spin generator of that Wankel engine, that spin kind of a motor. Someone's working on that. Someone's working on an engine where they're hoping they can go beyond electric and use converted garbage as fuel. And they're working on that. Someone has already got the idea, but they haven't got the quantum elegant mechanics of the magnets figured out, and someone else has already brought this information forward about creating an elegant quantum mechanic state for a spin battery. And that will come forward, but that's not ready yet. But there's someone working on an engine right now that might be thought of as a bridge between electric and fossil fuel, that might serve a purpose as an interim vehicle until you move over to the magnetic spin battery. And maybe sometimes inventions come in and they're not meant to be here forever, but they're here for a while to serve an interim purpose so that things can move along despite shifting and changing out in the world. And you've seen this just with energy. Let's get rid of fossil fuel. Let's have wind and solar. Let's do this. Let's do that. Money, lobbies, so many things involved in it. And the earth, and digging up the earth, and oil, and is there enough? And la. The person who's coming up with this in-between engine of fossil fuel and electric, keep going. That's needed. And that's what we have to say about that. You're very close. So this is a pep talk because they are getting percolations from soul. So what we're saying is you're at a point where you want to give up. Don't give up. Don't give up. Don't give up. And that's what we have to say about that for you. and your inventions. Okay. There is someone on the other side of the globe working on something that has to do with garbage. And how are we going to handle all the garbage problem we have? Now, people have come up with the idea of massive incinerators at very high temperatures and burning it all and then trying to purify the air. And then what are we going to do with all that ash? And how do we deal with that? And can we make it in concrete? La, 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 la. This is a completely different idea of how to handle garbage. And we're not going to give anything else away because this is coming through this person and it's theirs. And they will have the patent on it. But we want to give you a pep talk to say, keep going, keep going, keep going. Because this will be very, very good. Because there'll be no debris post. So keep going. And you may have a longer period of time before this comes forward for you. You may have to go get more funding, but keep going. Don't let the funding stop you. You will find the funding. Keep going. And that's what we have to say about that. Okay. Excuse me. Didn't expect that. Let me just drink some water. Okay. So, I'm just going to say this is Dr. Wendy Rowley doing her first live time capsule channeling with the Pleiadians. Oh boy. Okay. Just for those of you who wonder what's going on, what are these pauses? We're releasing little bits of information for about 15 scientists that Alienina says are going to find their way to this channeling. And that's what we have to say about that. Okay. So, there's another group within a corporation who are working on something to bring forward a different level of tech that has to do with tech intermeshed in humans. And this is creating a lot of fear and a lot of controversy in the world. And people are afraid that people are going to put these artificial intelligences in these machines and mesh them into humans. They are not. So what we want to say to these scientists is, if you want these devices to start to become popular, maybe consider don't get involved with the AI right away until humanity gets through the evolution of accepting this in the tech level. And that's what we have to say about that, because what you're doing is going to evolve into the future into being something very, very helpful for people in physical bodies. And that's what we have to say about that. This is a little bit of a perception of ease, of acceptance of your inventions. And we thought you might want to consider that, because the idea to get all enmeshed with tech and AI right away is very strong right now and is a big push in industry. Because everyone's doing it, you don't want to be left behind. But the consciousness of people out there is not totally accepting of all of this yet. And you're bringing in something really new and different. And what we're saying to you is consider bringing out the beauty of what you're doing first before you decide to bring it into a level with AI. Because it'll help you, and it'll help people's acceptance of your new inventions, which are actually beneficial for the greater good of all. And that's what we have to say about that. The next piece of information I'd like to share for another group doing work on the other side of the globe is that they too are a group within a particular corporation, and they are starting to look at other ways of computing and other materials that can compute. And relay information beyond the earth metals, the rare earth metals. This one doesn't understand all of what we're saying. This is Aliania for a second coming in. Just to give an aside, this one does not have the background of what she is time capsule channeling from us. And so if she doesn't say something right about the science, don't dismiss the message. That's all we're going to say about that. Okay. Because she doesn't know your field. She's just relaying messages. Okay. Let's get out of the way. All right. This is Wendy Raleigh. I am back. And that's a good thing to say. I don't really know about these things. But anyway, so you are looking, because everyone knows that this is unsustainable. So there's obviously those who are trying to figure out, well, what else can we do? And this one I have read articles in Science about them actually doing this. I'm looking for other kinds of conductive types of things for what they need in this industry. So let's see what they say. I'm going to get out of the way. So this material that you're currently working with, is not right. But your idea is very good. And your application for it is very good. But you're looking in the wrong avenue. In other words, you're still looking at metals. And you're still looking at the periodic table. Maybe it's not on there. And we're just going to pose that to you to help you. And that's all we have to say about that. Okay. There's another group on the west coast of the United States who's doing the same thing. Percolation through divine intelligence of many ideas at the same time. And they already have it partly figured out. Now, this is not a competition, because both of these businesses and these groups are going to do them in different ways, and that's needed. You need a variety of things to do things so that you don't run out of things. It's part of the system. So the way that they're doing it, they have already got figured out. But they are stuck in a particular problem with it regarding degradation. And what we want to say is, maybe the way you're thinking of the renewal isn't correct. Maybe the renewal happens in a different way. And maybe the person who has that product has some sort of quantum entanglement with that new thing, and it requires them for renewal. And we're talking about electromagnetic or magnetic, weak and strong magnetic signatures of quantum entanglement being involved in that for viability. And that's all we're going to say about that. You're very close. Keep going. All right. So now there is a group that has the potential for a new medical device. They already have it. They already have worked with it. They already know what it does. They already know what it's capable of. But there's another application that they're starting to realize that can happen. And you already know who you are when you hear this. And you have worked with this one, and that's all we're going to say about that. And you are starting to realize that there can be something else happening with this that you hadn't thought of before. And now you're letting go of your old paradigm so that you may embrace the potential for something completely different outside the box. And you know you're on the right track because you've already had your validation of that through your other source. But what we'd like you to know is that that too is a group entanglement, quantum, evolutionary, codependent thing. And in order for that to work, requires other pieces and parts of the puzzle that other people have. And you know that too. But did it ever occur to you that the Creator put forward certain healing paradigms through certain individuals that they may come together in their quantum entanglement state to make another energy field where that can work? We have actually spoken to this one about it before. And she feels that very strongly. And she knows what it is. And she knows how it works already. And that's what we have to say about that. Not to be a teaser. But we're just opening up the floor to you that maybe the design of this whole paradigm is a quantum entanglement group soul creation where people in the group represent different aspects of soul healing forces that when they are all in a room together with their camps create a quantum entanglement healing force engine of profound healing for large group events. Now you get it. And that's what we have to say about that. All right. Okay, so the next piece of information coming through is for another scientist who has a juicy invention that he works with that also was given to him, and this scientist is now deceased, but he is quantumly entangled in the soul group field with that still. And the scientist working on that one is about to have a breakthrough. And we wanted you to know that because that is part of your new healing paradigm, and you know that. And we gave you some hints before, and you did get them, and you went off on that tangent, and we want to just let you know you're close. Hang in there. And this is going to revolutionize an aspect of medicine, and you know this. And it's needed because you know, and this one knows, what that paradigm is doing. That it's very toxic in chemicals to try to heal people in that paradigm. And you know what you're doing. Bravo. Okay. And we also suggest you invite this one to the first quantum entanglement thing you do with that. And that's all we have to say about that, and you know what we're talking about. Okay. That's what we have to say about that. A little plug for her in her work, because it's part of that work. Okay, so that's what we have to say about that. Let's move on to another scientist. And we're getting close to the 15. We're not going to worry about counting, because some of this stuff is overlapping. So they're all going to get their tidbits one way or the other. So don't count that there's 15 things here. And that's what we want to say for those who are very like, well, let's see, I'm going to count the 15. You know, they need to occupy that mind and that nervousness. And so their intellect is like, wow, let's get all 15 of them and look at it. Okay, and that helps them to analyze and absorb, and that's how they process their information. It's not a criticism. We all process in different ways. Okay, so this next tidbit is there's a fellow in the southern hemisphere in one of the nations down there. We're going to leave it vague on purpose. And he's got a particular invention he's working on. And he's working with a group with it, trying to get them to work together and do it. Sometimes you start out, and the group that you start out with has some of the answers, but then it kind of stagnates. Sometimes you have to let go of that group and find the next group who have the next set of answers. And you're a very loyal person, and you don't want to let go of these old people. Well, I don't mean old. I just mean that the answers aren't there anymore. Now, you can still have them within that organization or whatever you're going to build, but you need to bring in new people. And that's what we have to say about that. And you needed to hear that, because deep down you know, but with the kind of person you are, you just wouldn't want to do that to anyone, because it's happened to you. And you've had that experience. And you vowed you'd never do that to anyone. But you still need to bring in new people to get the rest of that figured out. That's what you have to say about that. There is another person in the Southern Hemisphere in another country who's working on some medical stuff, and they're working on some chemical stuff, and they're working on some chemical medical stuff. And that's all we're going to say about that. Keep going. Keep going. And find your funding. Keep going. Okay. The final thing we wish to say is that there are some scientists within the Department of Defense working on something. And we're going to ask you to ask yourselves, does this serve the greater good of all? And can this be abused and used for the non-greater good of all? And maybe we've come upon something that's cool, but we're not quite ready for. And all we want to let you know is to contemplate, if that comes out now, will it do more harm than good if it gets in the wrong hands? And if you hold on to that for another 9 years and you bring it forward, it won't have that effect. And that's all we have to say about that. Sometimes you have to look at the long-term results. It might look like a good thing in the moment. It might change some dynamics that you want changed. But you got to look at what will happen if it falls into the wrong hands. And what changes in 9 years that it wouldn't happen that way. You figure out in 9 years how it can not be destructive. You have part of it, you don't have all of it. And that's all we're going to say about that. Sometimes the science needs to go forward more for the invention to become benevolent. And you have one half of something that is not yet benevolent. And that's what we have to say to them. And they know who they are. And don't let anything push that beyond where it should, because you will regret that for a very long time. Regretting something for a very long time is a lot different than waiting 9 years. And that's what we wished you to contemplate. All right, that's what we have to say about that. This was the last time capsule channeling of the Pleiadian Mother's information and hints for some people, bringing forward something that's through divine intelligence and grace supposed to come forward. And thank you for receiving that, as vague and as cloaked as it was, because it's for some particular people. I'm going to sign off, and I was told to surrender for this, so I want to see if Aliania has anything to say, and I might let her conclude this particular session. Let's see what happens. Dearest beings of light, this is Aliania of Cosmic Service, Pleiadian Mother of Sound, who is back with you. Peace be with you, peace be with you, peace be with you. That was pure her, through her soul, up into a time capsule, channeling, and we simply released the information. Pretty cool, huh? And for her, it feels extremely different than when we channel. It was very different. So we just wanted to share that for people who wondered what that was like as an experience. For those scientists, thank you for being open-minded enough to listen to this from a non-traditional source. For the people in the audience, thank you for allowing her to practice, and thank you for receiving her information in an eloquent way, because it's starting to ring with people, and it'll continue to do so more and more now that she is through the worst of her personal clearing to get to where she needed to be, because she literally had to clear her entire karmic akash in this lifetime, and that was purposeful for a reason, because it gave an experience level all in one lifetime of the whole journey, and that was purposeful. So she started out a mess and evolved into being where she is now, and if she could do it, so can you. And that's part of that message. So if you're in pain, if you feel like you're lost and you can't find your answers, if you feel like you can't take it anymore, hang in there, because there's lots of new healing paradigms opening up by 2027 that are going to be able to take care of this for a lot of people, because such is the grace and benevolence of the creative source. It would not have you go through a big shift into benevolence where a lot of pain comes to the surface to be dealt with without giving you tools and fast-track healing systems to move that out. And it was told by one person that they had about 12,000 years to bring all this work in. They said, screw this, let's do it all now. And they did. And so is this work, and you all are taking leaps and bounds very, very quickly in this great shift because of the awareness you all have. So keep your prayers of intentions for peace, new solutions, and the upliftment of humanity into a higher octave and vibration and frequency and harmonic and whatever, however you want to see light and love and color and goodwill to men, among men. And it takes thousands of years to get there, but you're on your way. Hang in there. You're not going to blow up. You're not going to destroy the planet. And you're not going to just drain it of all of its resources. Have faith in humanity. Have faith in the Creator. And have faith in your connection to the Creator to create a world of benevolence. And that's what we wish to end this series on. This is Allie Annie of Cosmic Service, ending this series for Dr. Wendy Rowley so that she can stay in the vibration of that time capsule channeling and have that experience and flavor going out the door. Peace be with you, and we're going to end. But we need glasses to do that, to see the button. Okay. There we go. Bye-bye. We don't have time to trim, so just bear with her.